Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we're going solo, and we're going to play with. I want to build a link tree. So, I let me talk about what it is, and then I'll talk about what I want to use as the stack because I have some ideas. Yeah, Nathan, that TypeScript show was super fun. I'm actually thinking I might try to write some TypeScript today because it was fun. So here's what I want to do. On profiles like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whenever you're in some of these social profiles, you get the opportunity to put one link in, right? And like for me, I don't know where to link people to because if I link them to like jason.af, that's sort of my writing and my bio, which is relevant sometimes, but other times I'd want people to find Learn with Jason because that's more relevant. If you're a developer, you want to see the educational content. Sometimes I just want you to go to Twitter because Twitter is more casual. It's where I'm talking about food and hobbies as well as code. And sometimes I want you to go to, like in very rare cases, my TikTok, which has exactly one video. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know where I want people to go. So what I've seen people do to solve this is they use, there's a tool called Linktree, or they'll build a page on their site that's like links or something like that. And then you put that in your social bio. And when you click it and open it, you get a list of like my blog, my Twitter, my whatever, you know, all the things that I want you to see. And I think that's cool. I like that. And I've started to feel the need for it where like, for example, when I say like, hey, it would be, you know, it really helps the show if you like and subscribe and, you know, things like that, which, hey, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, like and subscribe, click the buttons. But am I telling you to do that on Twitch? Yes. Am I telling you to do that on YouTube? Yes. Am I asking you to subscribe to the newsletter? Yes. But it's not clear because there's not a link to it, right? Like if you're watching this video, where do you go to click, right? Okay, well, I can fix that. If I give you a links page, if I say go to lwj.dev/links, which doesn't exist yet, then you could go there and have a link to YouTube and Twitch and the newsletter page on Learn with Jason and all these other things that would be like a way to show support for the show that doesn't cost you any money. Those are like, okay, great. That's a useful thing to build. And then the other piece of that is like, you know, there's this social proof aspect of saying like, hey, you're not the only person who's supporting the show. You're part of a big group. And so this is the part that feels like marketing. So it's a little uncomfortable, but it's like, it's clearly a thing that works and that people do and that makes sense, is to show like how many other folks are doing this thing. Like it's nice to be part of a group. And so you'll see this where you go to a website and it's like, you know, thousands of developers use this tool. Okay, great. Exactly. So can we do that with the links page? Can we show an up-to-date Twitter follower count without getting rate limited, without shipping a bunch of JavaScript client side? And I think the answer is yes. So that's what I want to build today. I want to figure that out. And so my, we're buffering today? I did, yeah, Chocolate Banana Rhino. I did just go live. We've been live for about 3 minutes now. I'm not, yeah, my bitrate seems okay. Let me know if you keep seeing buffering and we'll dig into that. But yeah, okay, no buffering over there. All right, well, sorry, Musha, that you're seeing buffering. We'll forge ahead and the recording will be available if it's just not working out. Sorry if that's not working. It is short buffering. That's okay. Well, let's keep an eye on it. It looks like my bitrate was a little lower than usual at the very beginning, but it seems to be leveled out at the normal rate here. So we'll keep an eye on that and see how it goes. Hopefully my internet does not betray me. Don't you do it, internet. Don't betray me. Okay. So that's what I want to build is the like link in bio kind of thing. But I want to build it in a way that doesn't ship JavaScript, that doesn't require a server, and that doesn't use up all of my serverless function calls. So what I'm looking at doing is using edge functions for this. And so I think we should write some TypeScript. We just did that episode with Matt Pocock. I'll pull up a link to that so that people can watch that if they haven't seen it. It was a great episode. Where is it? Here. Advanced TypeScript. Oops, I can't spell. That's what's going on. Here it is. Okay, let me drop a link to this in the chat. Here. All right, so that episode was great. I'm going to use some of what we learned there to see if I can write some TypeScript today. I'm going to see if we can do it in Astro, because here's what I want to do. I want a way that's easy for me to update the links so that I'm not like copy pasting the same block of HTML around. Although really this is simple enough that I probably don't need to use anything. But then I want it to just be HTML so that I can then use the edge functions to rewrite the HTML in a way that doesn't force me to work around hydration errors. So, and also like this is a super lightweight page. It doesn't need JavaScript. So my goal is 0 client-side JavaScript, but I still want those dynamic updates. I want to show my Twitter follower count, the number of videos on Learn with Jason, the number of blog posts on jason.if, stuff like that, right? So in order to do that, we're going to set up an edge function, and then we're going to have to set up some serverless functions that get those stats, but I'm going to set those to cache for say an hour, because like, well, honestly, some of them I could probably cache my number of videos for a day, because I don't make more than 1 video a day. I could probably cache my number of blog posts for 3 or 4 days. I don't know, like, well, with my current rate of publishing, I'd probably cache those for a month. Don't, sorry. But like Twitter followers, maybe I want to update that hourly. YouTube follower subscribers, maybe I want to update that hourly, because that number changes enough that it's maybe worth updating. So that's the outlay, that's the goal, and we've got, let's check the clock. We've got how can I do math? It is 9:37. We've got 83 minutes, call it 80 minutes with the outro. Okay, 80 minutes. Can we do it? Let's put it on the clock and see what we're capable of. Over to the screen share here. And let's start with a quick shout out. We've got Diane from White Coat Captioning here with us today, taking down all these words. Thank you very much, Diane, for being here. And that's made possible through the support of our sponsors, Netlify, NX, and New Relic. You can find those captions on the homepage of learnwithjason.dev. So jump in there, take a look at that, see how it goes. And remember, each of these is clickable. Go click through, check those people out. They're doing great work to make the web more accessible, which I appreciate very much. And what I want to build is, like, if you've ever seen Linktree, let's see if we can find, where's an example of these? Can I find like a, did they just show one? I just want to see one. Linktree, Shop Avery. No, I just want to open it though. linktr.ee/Shop Avery. linktr.ee/Shop Avery. All right, so this is what I'm talking about, right? So this one is kind of like, if they're on Instagram, this is probably how they're using it. So they show a photo from their autumn collection and they say link in bio, and you click the link in bio and you can find the autumn collection. And then they've got latest editions podcast and create your own. Apparently they're sponsored. Oh, this is fake. This is all fake. So this is a mock thing, right? But so I want one of these, but I don't want to use a service because I'm a dev. And also I want to show my social, like I want to show that social proof, right? And in order to do that, I'm just going to do what I know how to do as a dev, which is build my own thing. So first and foremost, I'm going to use Astro today because I haven't had too much of a chance to play with Astro since we did the Astro V1 episode with Fred. So this was a super fun episode. Astro is kind of taking the world by storm. It's a really, really cool tool that gives a lot of, it's just very useful, right? Like it's really good. And then this is Linktree if anybody wants to get one of these but doesn't necessarily care about building your own. But so I want to use Astro today. So I'm going to drop a link to Astro here. And let's start by just getting things on the page. So I'm going to grab this. We're going to, let's see, I'm in the right place. Create Astro at latest. Yes. And we're going to call this LWJ links. Just call it Linktree, right? That's fine. Okay. So I want this to be just the basics. I don't know what just the basics are, so we're going to find out what those are, but it says it's recommended. So That's what I want. Do I want to install the npm dependencies? Also recommended. I will do, yes. I'll do whatever you tell me, Astro. Okay. Blazingly fast. Yeah. So yes, 11D is also like, I love 11D. I use it for a lot of things. I use it for JSON.af. The reason I want to play with Astro is honestly like, it's just, it does a lot of things that I like. And I also know React better than other frameworks. And like, I like the idea of being able to use the component based setup and not having to write like 11D. One of the things that I struggle with a little bit is I just don't know short codes as well as I know component like JSX. So it's not like I use, if you look at the JSON.af source code here and here, you can poke around in here, but this is an 11D site. And I use a ton of like short codes and stuff. So if you look through, like I've extended it so that I've got like, I use the RSS plugin, and then I've got a couple things that I built in here, like this Cloudinary thing. This Cloudinary stuff lets me like automatically move my images out of Cloudinary, or out of 11D and into Cloudinary to like save on bandwidth and auto process and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I've got all these things like SEO images. I want to be able to filter my stuff to put that in there. I need to be able to insert footnotes because I do this goofy thing where in my blog I have, let's see, one of these. I have these like footnote things, and I need markup or a short code to make that work. And this is all stuff that like, I'm happy to do it. It's actually really fun to do it. But I can do it faster in React. And so Astro is appealing to me for that reason, which is I know that also 11D is working on island architecture as well. There's like the is-land custom component, super, super cool stuff. I need to get Zach on the show to talk about that because it is really cool. And then the other reason is, you know, it's just fun to play with new tools, and this is low stakes. I'm making one page. I want to see how it feels. So actually, did I share this? Did I share the... I did share that. Okay. So I'm just going to let that roll. So do I want to initialize a new Git repository? Yes, I do. How do you want to set up TypeScript strict? Oh boy, doing it on hard mode. And now we've got, what do we have? Let's look. So we have an Astro project. Do I want to update now? I'll do it later. I don't know what that's going to do. So we've got an Astro project. It's got the basic config. We've got source. It's got an env. Oh, this is just types for Astro. Okay. We've got pages. So we've got our basic page here. We've got a layout. We've got components. And I'm not going to need almost any of this, which is great. So it looks like we've got our style just right in here. We've got the global styles applied. And then I think the way that this will work in here is that we get scope styles in the component. Single file components is something that I love. It's like one thing I really wish was easier to do in React. This is great. There's no way back. Will I use SSR mode? I won't today. I'm not going to do that. We're just going to do the straight to HTML. That's actually one of the things I like about this, is that we can use all of this React stuff and then just get plain HTML. So I can disable JavaScript and my thing will still work. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into my layout. I'm going to, let's see, we've got the body slot. That's what we want. So this is where all of our content goes. We've got the title, we've got the generator. That's cool that they're doing that. We've got an icon. Okay, so title is astro.props. Oh, nice, that's cool. And then we've got the interface for that. Cool, so we can mostly leave this intact. It looks like there's typography here. There's some text colors. I'll probably mess with those a little bit. We've got the font family, system UI. Yep, that makes sense. Set the body to margin 0. I'm going to add one more here, which is to do the, let's make box sizing border box so that the padding doesn't add to the width of things. That always throws me off. And then we've got, let's see, some basic typography. Cool. Yeah, happy. That's all fine. Great. So saving that, we'll just leave that layout alone. And then we pull that layout in, and then we can drop it in here. I'm not going to use this card, so let's delete that. We've got a welcome to Astro. We're going to say, let's see, learn with JSON links. And then we're going to just start getting rid of stuff. Boom, get out of here. All right, and then we'll say H1, find learn with JSON online. Great. And then we've got some basic styling here. We've got some basic styling here. Padding, good. All right, text gradient, I don't care about that, so I'm going to get rid of it. Pulse, we're not going to use, so we can get rid of that. And all of these we don't need either, so away they go. All right, and let's start this and see what happens. So I'm just going to run Netlify dev, and it's going to pick up that this is an Astro site. So it shows here, there's my Astro site. And then we are up and running. Off we go, and here's our site. Okay, good. So, yeah, so this is very confusing to me. They like did this weird collapse thing in VS Code. These are actually two files, but since this one is like a generated thing, they've nested. Jury's still out on whether or not I like that. I feel like it's cool in theory, but I'm still digesting. Like I only kind of get it. Okay, so in here we've got all of this good stuff. Now, Musha, I'm sorry you're having a bad time there. But yeah, let's see. All right, we don't need this Astro gradient either, do we? In fact, I don't know if we're going to need any of that. And I'm going to start tweaking. Is this zoomed in? It's not zoomed in, so I want that link to be smaller, in fact. So font size XL. Oh, they made this big, didn't they? How do I want that to work? I want this to cap at... Have y'all seen this before? Are you familiar with this this idea of clamping? I want to. Yeah, let's just knock this down a little bit. So what this clamping means is as I make the window smaller, you see how that text is just getting a little bit smaller, right? And then as I pull it out, it gets bigger. Good. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to figure out what the right max size is. So let's start here. Even that feels a little bit big. Let's go with let's go with that. Is that 1.75? All right. And then here we want this to be like, I mean, do we even need this? We might be able to just get away without this for this particular project because we're going to keep it pretty small. So I'm going to leave it out. And that'll be that. Okay. So then what I want is I want these to be in like a container. So I want that like list of links that kind of look like buttons. So I'm going to, in index, we want, let's see, how do you do this in, I'm just going to do it in a component like this because I understand it better. So we're going to do components and links.jsx. And then is Astro already set up? I think I need to add something for React. Yeah, so we haven't set up React yet. So let me go to Astro and docs. And we want to use React. Just going to search. That's not the search box. Astro.js React. That's what I want. Okay, so I can Astro add. Oh, that's nice. So just Astro add React. Dope. Okay. Going to Astro add React. God, this is so nice. Like, I love that they do this. They show you what's about to change. Okay, so you're going to go into your config file and you're going to see this difference and this difference. So now if you wanted to do it on your own, you could, but hey, you don't have to. It's super, super clever. And then it tells you it's going to run a command. That's the command I want. Please run that. And it is run. So now I can do a Netlify dev, right? And then it should be, I think, that's already run. That's all good. And so then when I go into this one, it doubles. Getting started, UI framework, right? So then when we start looking at, let's see, Astro components, component structure, guides, integrations, UI frameworks, yeah, maybe one of these. You install the integration, and then to use them, you just import them. Beautiful. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to have this links component, and let's just start by saying export function links, and that's going to return a paragraph tag that says to do add links. Okay, then let's get into the index here, and I'm going to import links from components links.jsx, and then I can stick that right here, and what we should see is there it is. Okay, so now we're doing React, right? And that is excellent. That's exactly what I want. Got a link to that text clamping. Yeah, so I think let's see, CSS tricks clamp. I think there's a good responsive. I think this might be the one. Yeah, this is a good one. So this kind of walks through exactly how it works. But the general idea is that you've got the, when you clamp, you've got the minimum size that it can be. You've got the size that you want it to be, which is sort of like your in mid, like relative to the viewport width, which is one VW, and then you're adding your text size, the 1 rem, and then the max that it can be. So when you shrink the window down, it'll stop shrinking when it gets to 0.9 rem. It will then grow incrementally until it hits a maximum of 2.2 rem and stop. So as you know, bigger and smaller windows, you get typographic adjustments, and that is very, very cool. So definitely check that out if you've never seen it. Ooh, are they TSX files? You are correct. They should be TSX files. And that means I need to go and update this one to be TSX. Yes, yes. And now it's unhappy because no interface JSX intrinsic elements exists. Crap. Does this mean I need to like install types React or something, I think? Oh, you just have to reload the window? Is that right? No, that's not right. Am I going to use advanced generics? Probably not today. I don't think we're going to do it. Let's see. I need like types React, don't I? I'm going to try that and see if it fixes it. So npm id types React, and let's see if that just makes the problem go away. Where are my links? Links. There it is. Okay, so we just needed to get the React types in. Good, happy about that. And then what I want to do in here is I'm just going to set up a little const links. And actually, let's see, we're going to need a type for this. So type links is going to be, we're going to need the label, which will be a string, and the URL, which will be a string. And then I want to have, we'll make that a link. And then I want my links to be an array of links. And then each of those is going to have a label. So we'll start with a couple easy ones. We're going to go with Twitter, and URL will be twitter.com/LWJ show. Okay. And then we're going to use these links. So we'll do let's do like a container. And then inside of this container, we are going to do links.map link. And then we'll return, just going to do one of these. And it'll be link.url and link.label. Okay, so that's happy, I think. Okay, so that's doing what we want. What else do I want to show here? So we want to get to, I also want to show learn with JSON. And that's going to be the site. We want to show YouTube. And the YouTube is, I'm going to have to look it up because it's like a nonsense string. That one here. And hey, while I've got this in my clipboard, you can go and subscribe because it makes me feel good inside when you do it. Where do I need to put this? I need to put this in here. So we're going to copy paste this. And then we also want the Twitch. And we'll probably call that good enough because I don't know how much time I'm going to have to get all of these things done. How are we doing on time? We are down to 64 minutes remaining. All right. So at this point, we've got a general list here. All right, chat, hold me to this. We are going to spend less than 10 minutes on CSS today. Okay. And that's going to happen in... We'll just do it in here. That'll be fine. So each of these links is going to be in a, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this a nav. And then do CSS modules just work? Yes. CSS modules. Was it in here? CSS module. So if you just import styles from, okay, perfect. So I'm going to do it in here. We're going to do a links.module.css. And inside of it, we're going to get the links, and that's going to be a display flex. And we'll do a flex direction column. We'll do a max width of, call it 90, but we want a width to cap at, say, 400 pixels seems maybe good. And then for each link, we want these to be display block. We're going to need a gap in here, so we'll do a gap of like 1 rem. This is a little bit of code in the dark. How good can I make it without doing any checking along the way? So I'm going to do a 2 pixels solid, and let's make it a Learn with JSON has a color palette, so I'm going to peek into the code here. And let's just get one of these, and then we'll go all the way down to where my color declarations are here. And I'm going to use pink dark for these because that should be good for contrast. So we're going to set the color to be this pink dark. And then I want the border radius. Let's set it to like a 0.25 rem. I want the font size, make it a little bit bigger, so 1.25 rem. And then we want padding. Let's give it padding of 0.5 rem. And is that good? Are we happy? I think we might be happy. All right, so let's try that. So then what I need to do is actually import this. So up here, I'm going to import styles from links, links module.css, and then down here I'm going to add class name of styles.links. This is why I love CSS modules, by the way. Class name of styles.link, and then this needs to have a key. So I'm going to set a key of link.url because that should be unique. And let's see what I did. All right, that's well, not quite. Okay, so we need to fix a little bit here. So let's go back to our index, and we've got our main. So I'm going to set the text align to center on this. Okay, that feels okay. And then I'm going to go into my links.module.css, and we're going to say color is going to match this one here. And I should probably put these in a variable, but honestly, this is like the end of the styling once we get this done. So I'm not going to overthink it. We're going to do a text decoration of none. And then we're going to set link.hover, and for accessibility, link.focus. We will set it to be background here and color of white. Boop. There we go. All right, so that's looking okay. And then the piece that I'm missing next is we've got our links need to be display flex. Let's set a margin of 0 auto. There we go. So this is going to be my little dealie. Oh, and you see how that's flexing a little bit because the font size is still set to clamp. You know what? I think that's kind of cool. I'm not going to worry about it. It looks good enough for me. And time. Okay, we spent like 5 minutes on 5 or 6 minutes on CSS. We're going to call that good. So now what do we do? What's next? Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. When you look at something like this is semantic to me. It's a nav. So we're doing navigation to any one of these links. And so making it a list just means we have to fight with default browser styles instead of doing like just a thing that makes sense. I want links, and I want those links to be in a list, and the browser should know that it's a navigation because you're going to go to one of these pages, right? So that to me is pretty cool. That's what I want. So the next thing that we want to do is so these all work. So if you click on it, it takes you to the page. Okay, that's good. So let's go ahead and get this thing online, right? Like, why not? Let's see. We've already got it set up. So I'm going to do a GitHub repo create. I want to push. Oh wait, I need to commit everything first. So let's git add everything. Okay, so didn't commit anything I didn't need to. Extensions, that's all good. Package, favicon, all of our stuff. Yeah, okay, good. So I'm going to commit all of that and say, let's see, list links. And then we're going to git push. Oh no, we need to create a repo. Git repo create. I'm using the GitHub CLI, which if you don't use this, it's the bee's knees. I love this GitHub CLI. It saves me so much time. So I'm going to push an existing local repository. We're in this one, the one that we're using right now. And then because I want it to be in the Learn with Jason org, I'm going to copy this and just include the org name instead of just the repo name, because otherwise it would be created in my personal account. So there we go. This is going to be social links for Learn with Jason. It's going to be a public repo. I do want to add a remote. I want it to be called origin, and I do want to push those up. Okay, so now that that's done, what I want to do is actually add this new repo. So if I go and look, this is up on the old internet. Y'all can take a look. And good call. Okay, so American 2050. I've stopped using target blank, and the reason I've stopped using target blank is that I know that when I want to keep a window open, I should command click on it. And when I don't want to keep a window open, I want to navigate away because I know how to use the back button. And because that irks me, I assume it irks other people. And I hate it when I find out that I've accidentally opened 15 tabs because I already have a problem where I have too many tabs open. So this is something that I think I'm just like, you know what? You're the user. You know how you want to live on the internet. Do what you like. And that's why I do it the way I do it. But so let's go set this thing up. I'm going to go to app.netlify.com. I'm going to add a new site. Let's import an existing project from GitHub. It needs me to authorize. I don't need Netlify stuff today, so we can continue on. I'm going to choose Learn with Jason from the repo, and then we're going to wait to search my millions of repo. I think I'm over like 500 repos or something now. So let's, what did I just call this one? It's Linktree. And then that is going to pull up here. It's smart enough to know what's going on, so I can actually just deploy this. And this will build. And actually, while we're waiting for that to build, I'm going to change the name so that I remember what this is. Okay. And then that is going to be what our site is actually called. So I can come back out here. We're building. Built in 2 seconds. Nice. Okay, so our site is live. And that live site, man, 30 seconds for a fresh deploy. That's dope. And now we've got our live URL right here, and y'all can go and check that out. So we'll be deploying additional changes as we do that. We've got 50-ish minutes on the clock. So let's get back into this. So I'm going to do a couple things here before I start, because I'm going to have to restart once I go. I need to have my Netlify functions and my Netlify edge functions. So I'm going to do a Netlify folder, and then inside of that, I'm going to create one for functions, and I'm going to create one for edge functions. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is I want to get into how to actually request some of these stats. And I need to just figure out, let's see, what's the one we want to start with? What's one that I can do quickly? I'm going to do the Twitch first, because I have a package that'll help us do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to install the Netlify functions helpers, because we're doing TypeScript. I need the types for Netlify functions. And then I also want to get this package I wrote for getting Twitch OAuth, which will let me log in as myself on Twitch to do some things on my own behalf here. So let's run Netlify dev. And then that is now running, and we can see up here, it did start a function server. Okay, so we've got a function server running. So if I add more functions, it should theoretically pick that up. So let me go in here and let's add get Twitch stats.ts. And inside of that, we're going to import the handler type from Netlify functions. And then I want to export export const. Wow, come on. Handler, which is a handler. And that's going to be an async function that gets, it's going to get a request in a context, but we don't actually use it. What are you mad about? The import is used in a value and must use, oh, okay. So apparently that's a strict thing. Can y'all hear this airplane? Holy crap. It's like right over the top of my house. Okay, so my YouTube link, I tried to customize my YouTube link and it wouldn't let me. It like forced me to use my last name. And so I don't know how to do it. So yeah, I just gave up. Whatever, I'll just do a short link for it. I think I actually put together like one of these. Nope. What is it? This one? I made a short link for it somewhere. Nope, apparently I didn't. Okay, well, I should have done that, and I did not. So, anyways, here we are. We've got our handler, and it wants to promise void. That's right, because we have to return status code and a body. And so we'll just start by proving that this works, right? So here we go. We've got our status code in our body. It shows that it did reload, which means that if I go to my running app and I go to /.netlify functions get Twitch stats, it says boop, right? So there we go. All right, we're in, oh, go away. What are you? So we've got this, this output here, and then I need to get Twitch stats, right? So in order to do that, I'm going to pull in, let's see, we need to do a fetch. Crap, I need to import, I need to get node fetch. So I'm going to do an npm install node fetch so that I can use the fetch API. And then we'll start it again. And I need to figure out what I did to my environment where like something is weird with my CLI. I think I uninstalled and reinstalled too many node version managers, and now all this stuff is out of sync where like it uses the wrong version of the wrong things. Like one is from Volta and one is from N and one is from NVM, and it's so confusing to me. Someday I'm just going to burn this computer down and start over again. But okay, so we've got, the thing is running, it's doing what we want. I'm going to make this smaller, and I'm going to make this smaller so that we can see them side by side and just try things as we go. And then I'm going to collapse this sidebar because we don't need it anymore. And I'm going to import fetch from node fetch. And then I'm also going to import this get Twitch access token from my Twitch OAuth library. And what I need to do first and foremost is I need to figure out where to go to get the Twitch API stuff. Now I have another project that I've done that already has this, so I'm using that URL as a cheat sheet here. But so the Twitch API lives at https api.twitch.tv, right? And then what I need to do is I'm setting it as a URL because it lets me kind of break this stuff out. So I can set a path name, and the path name for getting your user follows is Helix users follows, right? And then what I need to set is some search params because I need to send some stuff. So we've got search params, and I'm going to do a set, and we need to set the to ID, and that needs to be my my Twitch username. Or my Twitch channel ID, I guess. Right, and so I'll have to go find that. And then I also need to set the search param for like what set I need. This is, I don't know why it does this. This is like Twitch requires you to do like a limit of the number of results you get back, even when you're asking for a single thing. I guess you're not. You're asking for users, so it's going to give me an array of users, and I don't know why passing it a single... anyways, API design is hard. So now that I've got that, I can actually make a request for it. So let's do one of these. I'm going to get... get Twitch access token. And now in order to do this, I have to set my Twitch client ID and secret. And because those are environment variables, I want to set them in here. So I'm going to go into my site settings and then down to environment variables. Let's make this bigger so we can see what's going on. I'm going to use this beta. I enabled this by going to Netlify Labs, and then you can turn on some experimental features. So this is scope and deploy context for environment variables. You can basically turn on like environment variables with different values based on what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm going to opt in. And what I want to do next is I want to actually create a variable. And so the first one that I need is Twitch client ID. And I want this to only be available in certain scopes. Like I don't really need the build to know about this. I only need my functions to build about this, or to be aware of this. So I can turn all of that other stuff off. And then if I wanted to, I could like run this with a test user in production, deploy previews, branch deploys, et cetera, et cetera. But in my case, I want it to be the same everywhere. So let me pull up, I've got these stored somewhere else off screen, and I'm going to set this to be hidden. Okay. So let me go get this, this actual value here. Give me just a moment to find that information. And what's that site called? Here. And now I'm going to get my environment variables out of that because I need that Twitch channel ID. Okay, so we can drop that one in, and I'm going to create it. And then I need to do the same thing for my Twitch. Oh, no, that was the wrong thing. I just put the ID in. Crap. Okay, so we're going to do the Twitch channel ID. And that, again, is going to be available only for functions. And I don't know if that one's actually secret, but don't trust you hackers with anything. And then we'll go back to the client ID. I need to edit that. And so I'm going to change, you're still hidden. Okay. Did you see me peek? Like that wouldn't totally expose the key if it was visible. Okay. And then I'm going to get the client ID. That's what actually needs to go in here. Okay. Save that. And then I need one more, which is the client secret. Tuck that one up. So we'll add another one. This is going to be Twitch client secret. And again, only needed in functions. And we want the same value. That's all hidden. So now I can go get my client secret and drop that in. Great. And I'm going to create that variable. Okay. So this now theoretically should let me pull all of those details in, meaning I can, in here, do my process. Oops. Let's go with process.env.twitch channel ID. Do I need to install type nodes? I do need to install type nodes, types node. Okay. Start that again. And then, wait, we don't need that one. We can go out here. We do a refresh. We don't get an error. And this, why won't you go? Argument of type string undefined is not assignable to parameter of type string. Okay. I guess we'll just do that thing that you do when you want TypeScript to leave you alone. Because I know that exists, but TypeScript doesn't know that that exists. Theoretically, I should probably be throwing an error if that doesn't exist, but I'm not going to stress about it just because I know that I've said it. And then we've got our get Twitch access token, which is here. And that should allow me to actually get data from Twitch. So I want to load my Twitch data, which would be Twitch response. And that's going to be await fetch. This is the fetch API that we imported from Node Fetch up here. And I want to use the API URL. We got to pass it to string or else TypeScript will yell at us. And then we need to pass some details. So I'm using a little bit of a cheat sheet here so that we don't have to look up the docs on how to actually load these things because I don't want to focus on that. And so the way that Twitch works is you have to send it your client ID, which we've put in Twitch client ID. And then we need to send an authorization. And that's going to be a bearer token, which is the res access token that we get back from here, right? So that sends back an access token, which we can see the Twitch token response. And that auto completed for me because I did apparently remember to add types. So good deal, good deal, good deal. Why don't you like this? String undefined. Oh, again with the thing. Let's do this actually. Let's do if process.env.twitch client ID. Then we're going to return status code. What is a 401? And then a body of must supply valid credentials for Twitch. And now it's not mad anymore because it knows that if this is undefined, we've already failed. So now that I've got my Twitch response, we can check if it worked. So we'll do an if Twitch res okay. Actually, I want it to be if it's not okay, then we will return, or well, actually, you know what? I don't want to write all this error handling because again, it's failed to fetch channel, failed to fetch Twitch stats. And then we can do a Twitch res.status, which will give us like the unauthorized or whatever, just in the console. And then down here, I want to get the data. So we're going to do data, and that's going to be an await Twitch res.json. And then in here, I want to just get the followers. So actually, let's start by just console logging data so we can look at it. And what we should see is when I go out here and I must supply valid credentials for Twitch, because we haven't stopped and restarted since I added the environment variables. So now that I added those, oh, I didn't link this project. Okay, that's what went wrong. So let me get over into here. We'll go to general, and I've got this site ID. So a fast way, if you're using this, is we can do a Netlify link. Nope, that's not the one. I did mean, Netlify link. I'm going to enter a site ID, and you just drop that in, and now it works. So if I run Netlify dev now, there are my environment variables. So you can see that now that we're linked to the site, because I'm logged into Netlify, that's why that's working. And then if I come back out here and I run this command, it gives me a boop, and we get data. So we've got the total of followers. And then oh, I see why this, okay. So what this API is actually returning, this is why you do a limit of 1. It's returning the actual user accounts that are following, and then you get a total up at the top of like total number of followers. That makes, okay, I didn't understand that, and that makes a lot of sense. So what we can do instead is in here, then I want to return, see, we'll go with const followers equals data total, and then we can or 0. Actually, no, let's not do that. Let's just, we're going to need to type this, aren't we? Object is of type unknown. Okay. And so that's going to mean that we need to define what this object is. So let's do that. And we can do it as a type, and we'll say Twitch follows response, and that's going to have the total, which is the one that we just got back, which is a number. Now, is that good enough if I do it as, need to get set this as Twitch follows response, and then we get that, and then I can return my number of followers, which I think we want to do is, let's send it back as some JSON. So we'll stringify, and then maybe what we do is say we'll say site, Twitch, and stats, and then we'll send followers. And then we want to send that number, so we can just send that right in. And this, I think, should mean, there we go. So from Twitch, we get stats of followers, and now we've got the number of Twitch followers. So that's good, but this is going to have to run every single time. So what I want to do is actually set a TTL on this. So I'm going to pull in this, oh wait, this part is from Netlify functions like so, because this is a type, this is a function or a helper. And so I need to wrap this whole thing. So I could do this, but I don't want to. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take this piece out. And what I'm going to do is say async function get Twitch follows data. And then now that's a function. And then what I'm going to do down here is export const handler. And that's going to equal builder of get Twitch follows data, which is this one up here, right? So what I'm doing is I'm turning this into a builder, but then what that means for this to work is I want to also send back a TTL. And so what that means is I can decide how long this thing lives, and I'm going to give it an hour. So this is in seconds. Missed the L on this. So now what'll happen is this will actually get cached for an hour because we wrapped it in a builder and added a TTL. So when you call this response, it will the first time run the serverless function, and then for the next hour, it'll just return that cached response. So it cuts down on your usage and gives you a bunch of details. Yeah. So wait, Node got fetch integrated in 18. That's so dope. I should totally do that. Thank you, Proving Idol, for the sub. And yeah, Jackie, you're probably right. I gotta like all my dot files need to just go away. All right, so now that we've got this, it still runs as expected. And oh, thank you for whoever just subscribed. See, that number goes up and it makes me feel good. So yeah, it still makes the fetch request, but now it'll be cached. So if we actually deploy this, I can git add, right? And then we can do a git commit and say feature add Twitch stats. And then we can push. And this will build nice and quick. How are we doing on time? We've got about 30 minutes left, so I want to get you know what? Let's do just the Twitch stats instead of trying to get more stats in from others, because I want to make sure that we get this running, and that will that'll give us the general idea, and then I can add the rest of these. It's going to be the same process for each one. We got to go get the API keys, send a request from our serverless function. We'll cache that response for whatever amount of time we want it to be using the builder, and then return that all to the edge function. So we're actually going to request it from the edge function and then update those stats there. So this, let's see, you done yet? You done yet? You're done. Okay. So if we go back out here, and is it this one? Yeah. All right. So now I can go to .netlify functions, get Twitch stats. And this first time, I don't think so it came back super fast, and it came back with a response headers. Where is it? Somewhere in here, it should show that it was cached. Age 0, is that? Oh, it's the age is in minutes though. Age 1. Okay, so see now you can see that it's responding with cache data. So the age is over 1 minute, and then when that gets to 60, it'll pull again. So that's the gist of what we're doing here. Is we're trying to make these, like, I don't want to get rate limited by any of these APIs, but I do want to pull that later data. And so yeah. Nathan, no. A follower is not a subscriber. A subscriber is somebody who's actually paying, and my subscriber count is in the dozens. Like, I do not make very much money from Twitch. Followers are just people who get notified when I go live, or you can even turn that off if you want. You can like turn off the notification. So followers are people who have expressed interest in my content since I started 300 and something episodes ago. So I have no idea how many of those people actually even know if or when I'm live. But yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not making that kind of Twitch sub money. I'm no Twitch partner. But now that we've got this, what I want to do is go back to our site in the front here, and I need to start the server again. I want to get that Twitch follower count into the site, but I don't want to do it on the client side, because what would happen is if I was on the client side is I would write like a JavaScript function that once you loaded the page, I would go off and hit that serverless function, grab the data, and then put it into put it in here, like under the thing. And that would be fine, but like I want this to work without JavaScript, and I want this to be really snappy and fast. So I don't want that client-side JavaScript execution every time. And as I add more social networks, that time to execute will get longer and longer. So what I want to do is do that in an edge function. So I'm going to open up my sidebar again here. We're going to create an edge function, and we're going to call this one add stats.ts. Okay, so how I want this to play out. I want to go into, how do we want to do this? I want to do a few things. So we're in an edge function now. So let's just kind of mock this up. I'm going to export default async function, and then the function is going to get a request. Let me close this down again, maybe make this a little bit bigger since we're going to be writing a lot of code. Now this in TypeScript, a request is like a built-in type if you're using Node, and then context comes from Netlify. So I need to get context from Netlify. So that's going to be an error for a second while I get that part done. So then we want to import context, and the way that works is we import from HTTPS. Can I remember this off the top of my head? Netlify.com. Was that right? Right. Okay. Now it's unhappy because this import is never used as a value. Right. And then it says cannot find module. Oh, yep. We got to do a thing. So when you're using edge functions, you're in Deno, and most of the time you won't have Deno stuff set up in VS Code. So we have a recipe for that in the CLI. So I'm going to run Netlify recipes VS Code. And what this will do is add that like .vs code folder to update my settings and give me the right pieces for like edge functions and Deno and all that kind of stuff. So when I come back out here, now it knows, like it's not yelling at me anymore. So from here, what I can do is I want to load the response, right? So let's talk a little bit about what happens here. When you run an edge function, it's kind of like middleware. So I'm making a request to my links page. But what's happening under the hood is the request has to go through the CDN, which then checks if it's got the asset, and then it has to go check the origin server if it doesn't have the asset, and then the origin server has to, you know, find that asset and deliver it, return it, and then we have to send that request back. So your request kind of goes to a server or a CDN or whatever it is and says, I would like a thing. And then using the headers, the URL, all the details that you send, or wherever you've requested it from will say, great, here's the asset you requested, and then send you back a response. Those are standard object request and response, or you can look them up in MDN. They've got standard APIs. So what we get to do in middleware is we get to both look at the incoming request. So we could say, oh, you don't have an authorization header set. I'm going to redirect you to the login page, right? That's one thing you could do. It's sort of middleware. But the other cool thing we can do is we can look at the returned response and say, okay, what this page returned was this, but based on your headers or your location or whatever it is, I can also transform that response. And this is what I think is really cool. That's the piece we're going to use. So what I want to do is get that response into memory. And the way you do that in Netlify is we're going to await context.next. And what this does is it pulls whatever the next link in the chain is, which in our case is the response. So I want that response. And then what I want to do next is I want to transform this response. So to start, let's just rewrite some text. And so I'm gonna use a tool that I love. If you've watched the show before, you may have seen me use this. It's called HTMLRewriter. It's super cool. And so I'm gonna copy paste this thing because it's kind of long. But this comes in from Worker Tools HTMLRewriter, and it was a tool originally built by Cloudflare. It's been adapted to support more runtimes. So this allows it to work on Deno. And now what I can do with this is I can set up an API for actually, so the way that it works like as a no-op is you set up the HTML rewriter and then you run transform on the response. Okay. And so if I set it up like that and we just run it, and then I don't know that we're going to use the request today. So I'm going to add this underscore to mark it to the IDE is not being used. So now that I've done this, what we should see in here is when I start the server, it'll say that it, oh no, it won't, because I haven't actually set this up yet. I need to go into my, my netlify.toml, which we don't have yet. So let me create that. And then I'm going to set up edge functions, and on a path of the home page, I want to run the function add stats. Right. So that's my edge function config. And now it says it's loaded the edge function add stats, and I believe it'll just work. And what we should see, if that's the case, is I'm going to go to add stats. Why don't we just console log something? Edge, baby. All right. So now when I refresh this, it didn't pick it up. I think I need to restart because I changed my netlify.toml. And when I go back to here and reload the page, nope, clicked the link instead of reloading the page. There we go. All right, so now our edge function is working. That's kind of our no-op, right? And it doesn't do anything yet because we haven't told it to do anything yet. We're just telling it like, hey, transform the response, but we didn't tell it what to transform. So what I can do is I can go in here and I can set a, let's see, on here we've got the nav, we've got the links. Why don't we set something on the, just for the sake of ease here, let's set the index. I'm going to set this h1 with a class name of like rewrite test. Okay, so then I can, why are you unhappy? Oh, I'm in Astro. There we go. Okay, so that's a JSX to Astro thing that's going to trip me up forever because my brain won't do that. But now that I've got this, what I can do is I can do, you get to do just like regular CSS selectors. So I do a rewrite test and then I can just do stuff with it. And are edge functions production ready? Yeah, you can use them in production now. They're pretty dope. There are several companies that are very large that are using them in production right now, which I enjoy quite a bit. So let's set this thing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this set of operations on whatever matches this. So we added a class of rewrite test, right? It's here. So I want to do some stuff to any elements that match that. So I'm going to use the element API, and that gives me an element, which will be the type element, which is what I was bringing in from here. Oh, it's going to yell at me. Import type element from, and then I need to grab this and copy paste it. Okay. And then this is a function. So I'm going to just get that element and we're going to do something to it. So I'm going to do an element dot, we don't want to append. Let's set the inner content to magic. All right. So now what I'm doing is I'm updating. And now if you look at this though, like check this out. Here's what's really cool about this type of setup. What am I doing? That's the shortcut. If I go in here and I hit, I think it's Command-Shift-P, I can disable JavaScript. Okay. So JavaScript is disabled now. And note that this still worked. Right? JavaScript is off, no JavaScript is loaded, and it's still doing that replacement. So this is what's so freaking cool about this is like, you don't need JavaScript to make this work. I absolutely love this feature. It really, really makes me happy. So in looking at this, we have the ability to now like do some replacement, and I want to do the replacement using our Twitch stats. So I'm going to get the stats. And we're going to start, because we're just going to use the stuff right now. I'm going to do, what's my API URL? It's going to be, can I do like a, it won't work from just local. So I'm going to have to do like a thing here. So let's do, I'm just going to hard code it to local for a second. And then we'll hard code it to the public one when we push it. So then it's going to be /.netlify functions get Twitch stats, right? And then we need to get like Twitch stats is going to be await stats.json, and we're just going to assume that works because we're chaos agents. And then down in here, let's just console log it. Twitch stats. All right, we can turn that part off. And now we can run this. Are you reloading or did you crash for real? You're reloading. It takes a second. I'm always just a little bit faster than I should be. So here we go. Now we've got our data loading in an edge function. Okay, and thank you to the 2 additional people who have followed. Man, that is cool. I should never look at these numbers. My dopamine. Okay, so I want Twitch. So I'm going to rename this because it's called Twitch stats. It'll be Twitch stats.stats. I don't want that. I want instead, let's get Twitch. Nope. Twitch. And then we're going to delete this part. What are you doing? Stats. We got Twitch. And then what I want to do is we're going to get, I'm going to use a data attribute. We're going to do data, what did I call this in the links thing? A key, and then we've got a link URL, styles link, and then we've got a label. And so for the label, we want to kind of slugify that. You know what? We're gonna hard code this thing because that is not something I want to burn time on, and we're running very short on time. So let's see, how many minutes do we have? We got like 18 minutes. So for each of these, I'm just gonna hard code in a network slug. So we'll call this like learn with Jason. We'll call this one YouTube, and we'll call this one Twitch. Okay. And then that's not on the thingy, so I got to add it to the thingy. Okay, now it's happy. And then in here, what I'm going to do is each of these is going to get a data network, data site, and we're going to feed in the link.slug. Okay, so now that is set up, I can select on the one that I want to select on. So I'm going to go into my get Twitch stat, not that one, add stats. And we're going to do data site, and I want Twitch. So on data.twitch, I'm going to element dot, in this case, I want to append, right? And then this is going to let me do an HTML element. And then I'm going to set it to be HTML true because I want it to actually parse that HTML. So what I'm going to insert here is a span with a class of stats. And then inside of that, I'm going to put Twitch stats followers. And then we're going to close this off and reload. And assuming I didn't screw anything up, I did screw something up. What was it? You can append, no need to replace the whole thing. Oops, typo. Where's my typo? Here. Too fast. Okay, look. So now we've got our Twitch follower count appended here, and that makes me very happy. So let's go and we can do a stats, or how does that work? It's global, I think. And let me just do a display block to see if that works. And it does. Okay. So what I can do then is I can set the font size to be like 0.875 rem. And yeah. Okay, great. So then in here, I want to do 2 more things in the time that we have left. I want to format this number. And I want to add the remaining the remaining little bit of details that we need here, which is I want to add the followers, and then I want to format this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the, what's it called? The INTL library. So we'll call it formatted, and we'll say new int. Oh wait, how does this work? INTL MDN here. So what I want is a number format, right? And so you see how this is kind of picking up different styles based on where you are. So I want to, so you get the formatter and then you dot format your number. So that's fine. We can do it that way. So we're going to number format, and then we're going to do NUS because that's where I am. And then I'm going to pass in a few things. We want style. I don't want currency though. I just want numbers. So options, I don't want currency display, locale matcher, notation. Maybe it'll just work if you only put in that one little piece. Let's see, notation, string representing short. Ooh, I like short form. Let's try that. So I'm going to set it up to use, it was, I just looked at this, notation. Oh, TypeScript, you're so great. And then what do we want? We want, let's see. Do we need to add anything with this? Compact. What else is in here? Rounding parity, trailing zero display. Let's just try this and see what it does. So I'm going to stick this in instead. Oh wait, this is the formatter. So we actually need to format Twitch stats followers. And then I can do this. And theoretically that works. Theoretically. Let's try it here. 11K followers. I don't want to, that's a lot of, that's a pretty generous rounding. So I want to add a rounding thing. So what it was, the minimum number of fraction digits to use, the maximum number of fractions to use. Default is the larger of minimum and zero. Okay, so I think this is what I want, because I think that'll give me minimum can be zero if it's like actually a round number. And then maximum, is this going to autocomplete for me? Maximum, we'll just do like a 1, like a 10.5 is fine. So let's try that again. There we go, 10.5. So that is what I'm after. That's what I want. And that is kind of what we were out to do today. So to clean this up, what I'll continue to do here is I will, find the logos, and I'll go out and get the API calls for each one of these services, or like in the case of Learn with Jason, I have an API for it that is dev API episodes, and I don't actually know if this one gives you a total count. I feel like that one might not. I don't know. There's probably something I need to do to make that work. But whatever it is, I can go figure that out. And then this will be a nice little thing that I can stick into my bio that kind of shows where you can find me online. I'll style this up a little bit so it's got a logo and uses my brand colors a little bit better. But yeah. Oh, deploy it. That's a good call. Let me deploy. Here we go. Git add. And then I'm going to, let's see, we got our settings, netlify.toml, links, link, yeah, good. So we're going to git commit and say feature display Twitch stats, push. And so that is going to go into our deploys here. So we'll follow that along, shouldn't take too long. International number format rules. Any questions, chat, while we're doing this? How y'all feeling? Finished processing. Site is live. Okay, so let's go back to the home page. Uh-oh. Are you not done? You say you're published, and it's failing because, let's go to the edge functions, and it says, oh, see, I knew this was gonna happen. I did that thinking to myself, I'll fix that before I go, and then I didn't. So let's go in here, let's fix that. Save, and git commit, fix, use prod URL. Oops. Git push. And now we wait another 30 seconds. Call it from .env. Yeah, I could probably, I need to look into this. We can probably get that URL dynamically. Let's make sure this works, and then yeah, can I get that from a default Netlify env? I think I can. So let me check once we've done this. I'm gonna give it a shot and see what happens. Are you done? Publish, deploy. There we go. Published, and now back again, and it hits the thing, and hot diggity, y'all. That is nice and snappy. It makes me happy. And we get our thing. And again, if I go in here and I disable JavaScript and I run this, like, we still get that count, and it's really fast, and we're not loading anything. And actually, we can go even a step further here, and let's look at the actual code. So this is what's generated. This is what's coming out of Astro. And this is one of the things that I think is really cool here is, like, note that there's no script anywhere. We're not injecting any JavaScript of any sort. So we've got our style sheet, we've got our Astro classes, here's the H1, here's the nav we set up. And then when we open this up, this is in the source. If I view source on this, we can actually see here that there's no JavaScript enacted here, and you can see all of the content. It's not formatted very well, but it doesn't need to be superhuman readable. And we get all these pieces. And if I come all the way down here to where the Twitch stats are, we can see that we've got Twitch, and then it breaks and it gives us this 10.5K followers. So this is delivered in the final HTML as far as the browser is concerned. So the fact that we injected it with an edge function makes it into static content as far as the browser is concerned. And that's what's so dang cool, right? That's really, really fun. But yeah, so let's see, we've got how many minutes left? We'll call it 3 minutes. Let's see if we can get the URL coming out of a env. So let's figure out what's available to us. And let's just console log it and see what happens. So I'm going to console log, and in Deno you get your environment variables. Oops. Env. I'm just going to see what's in URL. So let's try that. Come on, finish reloading. Deno. Oh, wait. I did it backwards. It's Deno env.get. That's what I did. So now that's reloaded. I'm going to refresh. And we get undefined. Okay. So let's see if I fall back to, maybe it's just for localhost like that. And then we refresh, we get localhost. Okay. So let's try this and see what happens. I'm going to Stick this in here. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to do const API URL because I don't know if we get a trailing slash or not, and this will fix that. So we can stick this in here. And then we can do API URL.pathname and put in this bit here. And then we can take our API URL to string. And what that'll do is just make sure that we don't end up with like duplicated slashes or something like that. So this should continue to work. It does. Now I'm going to, nope, not dev. I'm going to check that. We're going to git commit everything, and we're going to say feature dynamically find URL. Let's see if that works. So will this be faster than using JS from the client? Yes. So what this means is that when you make this request, the edge functions run in the CDN. So when you make the request, you're hitting the CDN network and the edge network roughly where you are. It's much closer to you than like an origin server and stuff. So what we're doing is like if you're the first person to hit it, it might be a little bit slower because you're going to hit the edge function, which then needs to call the serverless function, which needs to make that initial request and then brings it back to you. But it's still going to be really fast. And then if you are a follow-up user, it's going to be the edge function hits the CDN to get that cached response from the serverless function and then returns it back to you. So it should be just, you know, rip roaring fast. So let's go look at our build here. That's published. Let's get in here. You going to blow up? Yeah, it blew up. What blew up? Uncaught exception. It's still local. Okay, so URL is apparently not set, which means I need to go find out what the actual URL is, which I don't have time to do, but we can figure that out. So in what I would do to go and fix this, which for now I'm going to just, we'll just reset that to be our deployed one here. So let's put that in here and we'll put, oops, put it in here as well. And so this will allow us to fix it. To get URL from env. So that's a thing that we will have to figure out. It is possible because I feel like I've seen it done. Just can't remember how to do it off the top of my head. So we're gonna do fix use prod URL, and off we go. And so that'll work everywhere. It just wouldn't work like if you deployed the edge function as a deploy preview. It would still be calling the production get Twitch stats. So that's, you know, obviously not the ideal. You could manually maintain what your URLs are, but I know we provide it. I just don't remember exactly where. With that being said, y'all, this is, well, so the deploy prime URL, I'm pretty sure would give you the site's like production URL. So anyways, gotta go figure all that out. Let's make sure that works. Great. And with that, we are going to call this episode a success. You can find the code for this on GitHub here, and you can find the demo itself at lwjlinktree.netlify.app. This episode, like every episode, has been live captioned. We've had Diane with us today from Whitecoat Captioning. Thank you very much. That is made possible through the support of our sponsors, Netlify, NX, and New Relic, all kicking in to make this show more accessible to more people. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up on the show. We've got Twee coming in on the 27th. So I'm taking 2 weeks away from Learn with Jason. I have a company all hands, and then I am taking the first actual vacation that I've taken in a very long time. I'm going to take a week off and just sit on a beach and be quiet. It's going to be awesome. Once I get back, we're going to join up with Twee. We're going to have Maxi Ferreira to talk about smooth page transitions with the shared element transition API. This shared element transition API is so freaking dope. Make sure you add on Calendar, follow on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, whatever it is. Don't miss these episodes. Like, this is going to be a custom media player, like play video from wherever. This is going to be shared element transition stuff. This is super cool. This web authn stuff is like, how can you use your fingerprint thing on your keyboard to log into a website? Like, these are going to be really, really cool episodes. I'm very, very excited. We've got even more coming that's not on the list just yet, so make sure you get subscribed. That'll put it on your calendar and you can see what's coming. With that, we're going to call this one a success. Let's go find somebody to raid. As always, thank you very much, chat. We will see you next time.